Hi! Do you love baking? Do you love cooking? Well, I'm starting a new series here on YouTube called Old World, New Kitchen, where I will be taking you on a journey through my great-grandmother's cookbook from Czechoslovakia. My great-grandmother came over to America from what was then Czechoslovakia, now the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Then her recipes were then passed on to my grandmother, who had lots of children of her own, and then my mom is now passing it on to me. And so I'm taking you on this awesome fun journey through lots of different recipes, whether they're baked goods or yummy, wholesome, good food from my great grandmother, who was a Slovakian farm woman. So enjoy my new series, Old World, New Kitchen. This first episode of the mini series Old World, New Kitchen, I'm going to be making one of my favorite recipes that I grew up eating in my own home with my mom making them, but my grandma would also make them, and it's a Slovakian nut roll called Roz'ky. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that right, but if not, you can let me know. But Roz'ky is an old-fashioned Slovakian nut roll, but there are also other fillings you can put in, like apricot and prune, and it is one of the most delicious things. And personally, my mom and my grandma would always make it around the holidays, so 'tis the season this time of year. And so this is very reminiscent of my childhood, and I love it. My mom continues to make it every single year and blesses it to all of the families because she has 7 children of her own, me being the middle of the 7. But today I'm going to make it myself, and I'm really excited to make it here. I use the heritage white flour from Sunrise Flour Mills. You can find a link below in the description for that. I used to be gluten-free. It was a sad decade of my life. I still have to eat gluten-free if I go to restaurants and stuff like that because I just can't handle it. But Sunrise Flour Mill is the most beautiful, amazing heritage wheat, and so I use that for baking and cooking here at home. And so that's what I'm going to be using today, along with just your typical ingredients. So the whole recipe will be in the caption below, and the first thing I'm going to do is prep the fillings. So I'm going to prep a nut filling, an apricot filling, and a prune filling, and allow those to then cool while I then prep the dough for the Roz'ky. The first thing you're going to see me do is prep the fillings. Now, it's really important to do this first only because it allows them time to cool, so then you can prepare your dough and then make everything else after that. So the 3 fillings are a nut filling, an apricot filling, and a prune filling, and they're super, super simple. So the fruit fillings are basically like a mini jam. So you're going to take dried fruits, so I do dried apricots and dried prunes, and you're going to mix into those a cup of water. So I do the 2 cups of prunes with a cup of water, and then I actually did a double batch of apricots because I use those in kolaches the next day. So it's basically just water and dried fruit, and you let those simmer for a while until the water is mostly absorbed. And so then you can puree them with sugar. And so I added just organic cane sugar to the apricots after they were ready to be pureed, and then brown sugar to the prunes. Now the nut filling is a little different. The nut filling is ground walnuts, milk, sugar, cinnamon, and vanilla. That's what's in it. And so you cook all those together and you allow those to simmer and get nice and thick. And it is so delicious. So the next thing you're going to see me do here is puree the prunes. So I added brown sugar to those, and then I just puree. And if you do not have an immersion blender, well, you need to get yourself an immersion blender because it's literally the best thing that you will have in your kitchen. Just saying. So get yourself an immersion blender. It'll make your life so much easier. So I'm at it again with my immersion blender, pureeing the heck out of those apricots. Seriously, they were so stubborn to puree. But anyways, so get yourself an immersion blender. After that, I add in the sugar and mix that up so it dissolves. And then I set it aside. And now we have our nut filling, which is so thick and yummy and so creamy. I love it. And then you've got your apricot filling, which basically looks like an apricot jam, and your prune filling, which is the thickest of all of them. Very, very yummy. So the next step is to prep the dough. And so you're going to melt water, shortening, salt, and sugar together. So this is actually boiling water. So it has to cool to about 80 degrees before you can mix it together with the yeast. And so I let that cool for a while actually before I prepped the yeast. And then once that was cooled to 80 degrees, I then mixed the yeast with it. And then I added my flour little by little. So I ended up using about 3.5 cups of flour. You can use anywhere from 3 to 4 as long as your dough is not super sticky. You want it to be able to be worked with because then you have to knead it for a while. I just use my stand mixer because, it takes so much of the work out of it. And I had my hands full, as you can see, with my 5-month-old. She did not want to be put down the day that I decided to bake. So I could have worn her, but, she's rather big and it's just harder to wear a baby. So I just wear her on my hip. So I used about 3.5 cups of flour for this recipe. And that seemed to work and get the texture of dough that I wanted. So you kind of got to work with it. You'll see my texture of dough here in a minute, and that can give you an idea. So once the dough is all done, you're going to put it in a greased bowl, and that's really important. So make sure you put it into a greased bowl and then actually grease the top of it. I use avocado oil, just personally what I like. If you want to use butter, shortening, whatever, go for it. So after your dough has risen, you're going to take it out and separate it into 3 equal amounts. I just eyeball it, but that's just how I do things. But you can weigh it, whatever. If you want to be super specific about each one, you do you, boo. Anyways, separate it into 3 equal amounts, and then you're going to roll it out into 10-inch circles. Now, do as I say, not as I do. I definitely didn't roll. All right. I rolled them out bigger than 10 inches, and that was my first mistake. I should have stuck to the 10 inches because when they bake, obviously they expand. Well, you have to do a second rise, but they expanded. So a couple of my rolls expanded a little too much, and that's just how that worked. But anyways, so once you have your dough rolled out, you then lather it up with your filling, and then you have to set that aside to do a second rise. Now, something else I learned that I should have done later, because I talked to my mom about this afterwards, because that's what I do. My mom is the expert on this anyways, is I should have tightened the rolls as well. And so, you live and you learn. It's just how it works here in the Henderson House kitchen. So I rolled them out, but I should have tightened them, I guess. But c'est la vie. It is what it is. So we have our apricot, we have our nuts, and then we have our prune filling as well. And then what you do after that is you let them rise again. Let them rise again. And then you get to enjoy. So these rolls have loads of butter in them. They are definitely not low calorie. So before you let them rise for the second time there, you lather them up with that butter, okay? So spread the butter on them, then cover them with cling wrap and let them rise again. Once it's time to bake, you're going to preheat the oven to 375 and let them bake for 30 to 35 minutes. And that's it, guys. It's literally, my house smelled so good. Just so you know, it smelled so good.
Like, look at those. And after you're done baking them, of course, you need more butter, guys. You gotta lather it up with lots more butter because, you know, you just gotta. It's so good. And that's it. Delicious, yummy, not so nutritious, but so good.
Okay, so it's the next morning. We're gonna eat this for breakfast. I have the apricot one out because this is the one that I probably didn't make I rolled it out too thin. So the other ones kind of broke apart. And so that was a learning thing. It's just we live and we learn, right? So I have the apricot one to slice up this morning, and it's gonna be really tasty. I personally love the nut, and well, I love them all, but I love the nut one with some butter if it's warm. And the apricot one and the prune are just chef's kiss. Even though the other two kind of spread apart a little bit because I rolled them too thin, they still taste delicious. So without further ado, let's cut this bad boy up and enjoy a few slices of this for breakfast. I'll show you what it looks like so you can see what the roll looks like inside. So you've got those layers, almost kind of like a cinnamon roll look. It's obviously more dense than a cinnamon roll, but in my opinion, so much better than a cinnamon roll. And so yeah, cheers. I hope you make some Roz'ky, some old world recipes in your new kitchens here. And so this is delicious. Guys, it's so good. Thanks so much for tuning in to my first ever episode of my mini series, Old World, New Kitchen. This was so fun. I cannot wait to share more of my Czechoslovakian great-grandmother's recipes with you all here. And I hope you make some Roz'ky for yourselves and for your families. Bye, guys.